The fast moving nature of social media means that if you want someone to watch your video, you have to get them to stop the scroll. So today we're talking about how you can develop a great opening hook for your videos. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Liz. I help coaches and consultants add video to their business. Make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss any of my future content. Now, this topic of an opening hook has been controversial for years because sometimes you see some videos that have the world's most boring opening line, but the actual content of the rest of the video is excellent. And the opposite is also true. Sometimes there's a really interesting opening line that causes you to stop your scroll and watch the video. Then you find out that that video is a bunch of fluff and a total waste of your time. So how do you get the best of both worlds here? Now, I do a lot of work with different coaches and consultants, and some of them are a little more introverted in nature. What I notice is that when I tell those clients to try to focus on the opening lines of their video, they are very resistive to it. Why? Because social media has made us feel like the opening line has to be a very spammy, salesy type of an opening line. Not necessarily. So even though you want your opening hook to be dynamic and interesting, the point of it is to pique the curiosity of the viewer so that they know that that content is going to be useful for them. You don't want to make some type of an opening hook that just sounds so wild and crazy that the actual video has nothing to do with that. So let's talk about some of the ways that we can actually formulate an opening hook that is going to get your audience interested in watching the video. Let's jump right into it. Now, if you've watched any of my YouTube videos, you'll notice that the very first couple of lines of my video are meant to be my hook. Usually that's less than 15 seconds long, and it is just meant to introduce the topic of the video in a way that should be, I hope, interesting for the viewer. Based upon what people think of those 15 seconds is how they decide whether that's the video for them that they want to watch. So that means you need to show up with relaxed but confident energy. You don't want someone to be turned off by those first 10 seconds right away and think, wow, this woman has such a weird vibe to her. Make sure that you are showing up in your opening few sentences the same way that you intend on showing up within the rest of the video. So be willing to smile, relax, and spend time working on that opening hook. I can't tell you the number of times that I have worked with clients who have left the hook just up to chance. They've prepared all of the material for the actual video and a very solid introduction and a couple of points and a proper call to action at the end. But then that opening one or two lines, they think that they can just say anything and get into it. That's always a mistake. It is that section of the video that is going to prompt someone to even continue watching the rest of it. So you don't want to lose them there with any boring phrases or with something that just doesn't sound interesting enough. So when you are thinking about what to say within those couple of sentences, try to limit it to a maximum of 2 sentences. We're talking about something that can be said in less than 10 seconds. You've understood the way that social media has become such a beast for people not to hold their attention for very long. Within 3 seconds, people are tempted to just keep scrolling. So the shorter you can make your hook, the better. If there's a way that you can create a hook that's just one sentence, your first opening sentence, that is going to always be the magic ticket. People are going to hear that and then make a determination right away. So let's look over a couple different examples of hooks so that you can see which ones might be better suited to the topic of the video that you are working on right now. Let's jump right into it. Here's a common hook where you start with a number and then you get into the ways to get a certain desire that your audience might have in a certain time frame. Now, the time frame that you're referencing there should be something realistic so that your viewer doesn't think that you clickbaited them or tried to scam them, but still something that's a little bit surprising. You want the viewer to see that and think, wow, can I really achieve that in that amount of time? So here's an example. I could create a hook that says 4 ways to start making videos on social media in 1 week. Now, if somebody heard that hook and they were struggling for months to get on social media, that type of a hook would absolutely stop their scroll. Here's another easy example of a hook. Sick and tired of, and then mention what the pain point is. Now, this is such a short and sweet hook, which is why it works really well. Make sure that when you are mentioning that pain point, you don't pick the world's most general pain point, like sick and tired of feeling tired. No, you want to pick a specific pain point that you know your audience is actually struggling with. So here's an example of one that I could create. Sick and tired of saying and ah whenever you get on camera? Now here's another third hook that's really common but also really effective. Did you know that every single time you and then talk about a very common mistake that they make or some type of a daily occurrence, you are and then mention the consequence of that mistake? This way, you are calling out that viewer. You are reminding them of something that they are already doing every single day, which they may or may not realize, by the way, but you are going ahead and telling them the consequence of that. The problem with many of the people in our target market is that they might be making the same small mistakes daily without even realizing how this is actually impacting their life. So here's an example that I might make. Did you know that every time you look away from the camera lens, your viewer is tempted to scroll away? See how that almost punches a person in the guts? So this is the magic of a good hook, because not only is it positive, but it has a little bit of that negative in there too, because that is actually needed to cause that person to feel like there's going to be some value in the video that is going to help them. So let's look at a fourth example. Start with a number, common, and then talk about your niche, and then mention the mistakes that separate a beginner from an expert. So this is another type of a hook where you are actually putting a scenario in front of people and causing them to self-identify. Because if they realize that they do any of these mistakes that you were talking about, they might actually be qualified as a beginner when they're busy thinking that they're an expert. So let's look at an example of that. 5 common video mistakes that separate a beginner coach from an expert. Now, in my niche, I typically work with coaches and consultants. And the thing about those folks is that they want to be seen as an expert when they show up on video. Of course they do, because they have a ton of experience in their field. However, there are some common camera mistakes that they make that can sometimes make their viewers think that they're actually a newbie coach, which is not what they want. So this type of a hook will absolutely get their attention and stop their scroll. Now, we're interrupting today's video so that I can remind you to subscribe. I think you should do that first. And if you want to start making videos at home, but you're not sure how to set up your space, be sure to look for the link in the description below so that I can send you a free resource so that you can get started right away. Now let's get back to our video. Now let's look at a fifth example where you are encouraging the viewer to make some changes. Would you believe that a few simple changes in your, and then talk about some type of a vehicle, some type of a tool or resource, could drastically increase or decrease, and then talk about their pain point or their desired point? For example, would you believe a few simple changes in your equipment setup could drastically decrease the amount of time it takes you to shoot YouTube videos? Now, when you hear that hook, it is actually 100% accurate. So this is something to remember about the hooks that you are creating. You're not creating hooks that sound like they were printed on the back of a magazine somewhere. You are creating factual, accurate hooks. This is accurate information that you are giving out to your viewer, but you are working on phrasing it in a way that it makes that viewer feel like you are talking about them. You are talking about something that they are probably already doing or something that they want to achieve in their life, and you're filling in those missing gaps there. So let's look at a sixth example. Now, this example is one of the most common ones that we see, but sometimes people don't do it the right way, and so it doesn't have the same effect. How to get, and then talk about the desire of your audience, even if, and then talk about a huge objection that that client has. Now, for example, I could do something like this. How to get on Instagram Reels, even if you don't want to dance or point. So many of my clients come to me and say, Liz, I really want to get on social media, but I don't want to be doing all the dancing and the lip syncing and the pointing, and it makes me feel ridiculous. So I know that this is a real objection that a lot of my clients have. So I am putting it into the hook of my video, and I am creating a video that should be able to help them once they watch it to overcome that, or to give them some tips on how they can do something differently without having to delve too much into the things that they don't want to do. So the next time that you're creating a video, make sure that you spend ample amount of time reworking and working a couple different hooks. Prepare at least 2 different hooks for each video that you make, and then run them through your mind a little bit and see which one is the most interesting, which one piques the most curiosity, which one rolls off your tongue easily. Once you decide which hook you're going to go with, practice that over and over and over. You don't want to be reading that hook from a paper or reading it from a teleprompter or trying to memorize anything lengthy. It should be short and sweet and easy for you to say with a lot of energy when you first press record. This is how you make a great hook that your viewer is going to lean into. So if you like this video, I hope that you will give it a like, share it off with one of your friends, Don't forget to subscribe because every single Tuesday, I bring you a new video teaching you how you can add video to your business. So until next time, take care.